Hey, everybody. Hi, guys. I'm Matt. I'm the head of community at Lawtrades. If you don't know what Lawtrades is, we are a legal tech company that helps provide flexible, on-demand legal talent for busy law firms and in-house departments, lawyers, paralegals, legal operations professionals, and contract managers. So I'm very happy. I've been waiting for this event for such a long time because I love the legal ops role. And I have the greatest panelists here today. And Carl, if you don't mind introducing yourself, and we'll go around the virtual room.
Thanks, Matt. I'm happy, really happy to be here. I'm Carl Morrison. I'm Director of Legal Operations for the Cosmopolitan Las Vegas and now MGM Resorts International, as the acquisition happened about 90 days ago. So happy to be here with these awesome panelists. I love these two.
Thanks, Carl. I'm Deisha Vazquez. I am the Director of Legal Operations for New Benevis, Inc., which is a dental service organization that focuses on pediatric dentistry. So giving high-quality dental care for all of the children in underprivileged areas. And I also love these two.
And Tom?
Hi, my name is Tom Stephenson. I am the Director of Legal Operations for Credit Karma, where our mission is to make financial progress possible for everyone. So as I tell people, we're the connector of dots to being able to have our members use a unique situation for their benefit, and focusing really on a lot of different initiatives we'll talk today, and really excited to be pairing with these two as well. We've hung out in a number of venues, both in person, virtual, and in between. So it's kind of great to be in this environment together once again.
Awesome. So the title of today is The Path from Paralegal to Legal Ops. And everyone here has a fantastic, experience with this, starting as a paralegal, going to legal ops. I'd love to hear how you all made the transition. Also, kind of where you started. Again, Carl, if you don't mind starting.
Yeah. So I have been in the legal industry for over 20 years. So I originated as a paralegal. I did complex trial litigation work for so many for so many years, and enjoyed it. But as my career grew, I knew there was more to my personal trajectory of where I wanted to go as a professional. And I didn't want to be a lawyer. No offense, Matt. Love you to death. But
taken.
I did not want to be a lawyer at all. And so what did I want to do? And I moved. I had an opportunity to move. And I'm here in Las Vegas, originated from Tulsa, Oklahoma, and transitioned into in-house. And I had a GC at the Cosmopolitan, absolutely loved. Since the merger, he has moved on, unfortunately. But he and I mentored together. I was the first legal ops role for the Cosmopolitan and grew into that now 7 years later, and love what I do. I couldn't think of anything else I'd want to do.
That's awesome. Deisha?
Yes, that's awesome, Carl. I also did not want to be an attorney. So when we get that question so often, well, why aren't you just an attorney? Because I didn't want to be, and I didn't want the six-figure debt either. So I have also, no offense, Matt.
I cannot take it. I don't want it either.
I've also been in the legal industry for almost 25 years. I started in Social Security disability law, and I transitioned into general practice, where I took a step back and became a legal secretary. And when I say back, it's not in a negative way, it is in a trajectory slingshot sense, but just to learn more about the general practice of law. And I got into corporate and litigation, and I did that for quite some time. And then in 2005 I moved to Atlanta, Georgia, and I had the opportunity to help the first in-house general counsel for a major construction company and build their first in-house legal department. So I've been building legal departments and training lawyers for quite some time now, and it's been a ride. And my first role as director of legal ops in title is at the current company I'm with now, which is New Benevis, Inc.
Awesome. And Tom?
So while I've been, in the legal industry for over a decade, like both of our other two panelists here as well, I think much like a lot of people that I believe are attending on the other side of the screen, we've all had unique roles and skill sets. And for me, it really was the end-to-end in the law space, period. So started off as a corporate finance litigation paralegal, and over a number of years moved into other areas, whether it's employment law or, filing a Chapter 11 bankruptcy for a Fortune 500 company also involves, what you are doing with their corporate entity structure, and other, just trickling or areas that touch what we would consider kind of the clock core 12. So using those skill sets, and then ultimately moving on to managing paralegal groups, legal professional groups and teams, and legal admin teams. And then fast forward to my current role as head of legal ops for Credit Karma. And that's quite a jump, but really over the years, it allowed me to realize the importance of connecting the dots between what we call the foundational needs of legal ops strategy, and filled my toolbox up with these complementary skills from that law firm side, whether it's business intelligence or sourcing, coordinating third parties, and ensuring the work and projects are aligned strategically, to back in the day having the, e-discovery movement take off. So it was the original OG paralegals that were saying, relativity, disco, let's throw some things out there. How do we move from a piece of paper to something that will do it for us? And I think that's what they thought. So this is to kind of say, there's a path for everyone. And I think each of us brings a different skill set, but honestly, we kind of have complementary journeys of how we are sitting in front of you today.
Fascinating. To speak to relativity, I remember first getting into e-discovery, right when to your point, like right when it started to really pick up, and I was so confused. And I wish I had someone there to be like championing it, right? Like, this is how we do this. This is how I'm taking control of relativity or whatever you're utilizing, which leads to my next question is, what is legal ops, guys? Like, why is it so important? And honestly, whoever wants to take a first crack at it, I want to hear from everybody, but whoever wants to start, please.
Legal ops, to me, this is my perspective. And I know Deisha and Tom are going to have very similar answers, but for me, legal operations is all about understanding your business. And by and large, most of the times, the legal ops professional is in-house. We're in a corporate setting. There are some that are setting in private practice, AM Law 100 type of settings, but by and large, we're in-house, we're corporate. And so by definition, corporate in-house legal is a cost center. And I hate to use that. And I like to use the term revenue protector, because our whole goal as the legal ops professional is to actually try to keep the money, not having to spend the money. So how do we do that? We have to look at inefficiencies. How do we streamline how the department is running? And it doesn't mean laying off people. It means actually looking at how are we doing things within legal? How are we using outside counsel? How are we using legal tech? Things of that nature that's important for us to protect that revenue. So analytics, it's a lot about analytics. It's understanding the business as a business, but also the business units within it. I work in gaming and hospitality, and I like to say I work for 7 different companies, because I have all sorts of different things I have to deal with, from IP to premises liability to, name it, I'm dealing with it, real estate, contracts, so on and so forth. And so for me, legal operations is all about the business operations of a legal department in-house, and how can I improve on it? How can I bring value to the legal department?
And
Go
go ahead, Tom.
ahead, Deisha.
No,
go ahead.
I was going to say, just to piggyback off of what Carl said, it's kind of being the COO of the legal department, running the day-to-day operations of it. As Carl said, we often are looked at as cost centers, but as we talked about before in the past with these two, we are revenue protectors, but in some cases we can be revenue generators as well. Over a couple of different companies, I've been able to, in one company, bring in $11 million of a $23 million goal just by implementing a contract management system and getting all of the contracts in one place and creating a workflow. In another company, I was able to secure millions of dollars back for from insurance companies for property damage claims. And so we can be revenue generating individuals as well. And Jonathan, you talked about, you asked the question about education. These guys have great education behind them, but if I were to be frank, I have a high school diploma and I have a paralegal certificate. So you can meet the criteria, or you can be grandfathered in like me and use your experience and just look for the opportunities there.
Awesome. And Tom?
You know, there's really no one size fits all definition, but from what Carl and Deisha said, we have some common themes. So it's management of operational aspects of a legal department, and we're really excluded from doing the substantive practice of law. So even if you are a licensed attorney or, you know, keep in good standing, you are trying to separate the substantive practice from that operational aspect. Others simply kind of say you run legal like a business. And that kind of resonates on both sides of the spectrum for me. And the best part is we're now seeing different groups show up to the table. So before we would think, oh, it's cute that we think that law firms are going to be invited to the table. But now what we're seeing is they're driving innovation, and they're driving working with us when it comes to the in-house side. I know that one of the anonymous questions said, how is legal ops different from an in-house legal department? And I think with legal ops, the goal is to be able to, one, run it like a business, two, have attorneys or those that are substantively practicing law and engage with them from a strategic level that takes that away from their plate. And then we're all in this game really just to demonstrate the value of the law department or the legal department or the in-house department by providing data and communications. So I think, you know, that legal ops and in-house, whether you're law firm or in-house, we can look at it from different perspectives. And you know, there are going to be some great opportunities down the road through some conferences and stuff where we're going to have more conversations to connect that trifecta. But at the end of the day, legal ops is a role where you have to serve while you're leading. And so everyone wants to talk about their view, but ultimately we're just really working together as a business core function to handle the day-to-day operations at that intersection of corporate legal operations, law firm, and legal tech.
That's awesome. I love, Deisha, what you said too, is the COO of the legal department, right? The GC, like just speaking in-house, right? The GC is the CEO, the quarterback. And then the COO is really, I think the safety is the best way to put it, is control, right? Like they are the ones that are really running the ship, and it allows the GC or head of legal or CLO, whoever it is, to do, and I say this as an attorney because I could be transparent here. In terms of business, I'm not the best. I can practice law, but when it comes to maybe running the ship as opposed to like leading the ship, it's probably best for somebody else who that's really in their wheelhouse. So to me, that's what legal ops is. You're really, I mean, you're running the machine. You're making sure the machine works. And then for me, I could put in my data and my legal nonsense to, you know, to get a result. But that's my thought on it. And I think it's just a valuable tool, valuable position.
I'll add, Matt, to that, what you're saying, and Deisha, about, you know, the COO type of concept in the legal department in-house and as a legal ops professional, especially when it was just the Cosmopolitan, but even now as being part of MGM Resorts as their first still legal ops for them, that I act as an advisor to not just the business, but also to the GC or senior leadership within the legal department. And so my role is to help them. Love you, Matt. Love lawyers, but you're not business. You don't go to law school. There's not a class about business acumen. That doesn't exist. So by and large, that's where we come in. We help you understand and let us drive the business and operate the business, advise you on the business aspect of it, and you guide us and we for the actual business units.
No, that's right. Yeah, I did not go to. It's the most fair of points. I did not go to school, and they did not provide us the class you're describing, which would have been very helpful. But really, that's not my role, right? My role again is just to provide legal, and then everyone else can make sure that legal department actually runs. Because if you leave it to me, again, I don't want to knock myself a little too hard, but if you leave it to me, it may not be as efficient
Right.
as it probably should be.
Right.
And to Tom's point, which I kind of wanted to address just quickly, data. That's something I think that everyone in legal ops is really championing, like utilizing data to make great decisions and to drive efficiencies. And I'd love to hear how everyone here is utilizing data, or how they're utilizing data actually.
I'll start first on this one. Well, as far as data, I over the manager of risk and legal in my department, and we have 144 different clinics across 16 different states. And so part of data management is understanding where all of our claims are coming from, what are the offices that have the most claims, so that we can provide them resources for additional training and to help mitigate those risks in the future, but also to empower them to be able to do their jobs on a day-to-day, and allow us to understand exactly where our pain points are, and come up with more efficient processes and also efficient resources in order to help them.
Fantastic.
So,
And I think,
yeah, go ahead, Tom.
oh, this is a really good opportunity to kind of talk about the elephant in the room, if you will, as how is paralegals, or how are legal professionals tied to legal operations? And as you've heard from all of us, whether it's being at a law firm on the law firm side and working in any of the practice group areas, that while they're not maybe direct, one-to-one semblance or things that are in common with estate planning or, translating into in-house, all of those core concepts are business focused. We're really focused on being able to, from the law firm side, take data from e-discovery and help with trial preparation, help with automation, help with using, AI is really important now. And that's one of these, cloud words that you see all the time. And you can look up what the definition, of artificial intelligence is, and see how that language, maybe in the law firm or the legal tech side, directly translates to the in-house side, as we call it, maybe business intelligence. So we're kind of all talking the same language. We're all really using data to help tell our stories, to help provide examples of inefficiencies, or to, on the flip side, once you have a process in place, being able to use that data to tell a story. So I've used data in multiple ways, but in my current role, we rely on it every day, from sunrise to sunset, from how we run our legal ticketing queues to how we're forecasting trends, how we're pivoting with the needs of the company. And ultimately, I think those are what we see on the other side of it. So this long ranted point was to say, I think for this group, as a legal professional, as a paralegal, whatever you may call yourself, think about how those skill sets are part of the ecosystem already when you're saying, how do I make the jump? And it's familiarize yourself with business acumen, attend these events, network, educate yourself, and really be able to lean into kind of the knowledge portion that comes, that we've all done as well, and we continue to do as our careers grow as well.
And I'll just add, as it relates to data, that your analysis and analytics around data is only as good as the data that you have. So you have to also understand the data in. So standing up and implementing systems, understanding how certain workflows go, the data in, if it's bad data, you're going to have bad analytics. So it's important, not just on the backside and understanding that, it's important to do analytics and understand the data, but you also got to understand what data is going into it. Because if you have bad data, then the analytics are worthless. And then you give bad advice and guidance to your GC, to the legal department, to leadership. So everything else that Deisha and Tom said, I just wanted to add that particular point. Bad data in, bad data out.
Yes. That's an excellent ad, Carl.
I couldn't agree more. So let's talk about this. I'd love to hear, and I think that's what a lot of people watching want to know, the paralegal to legal ops jump. I think for most that are paralegals now, that they're just now hearing that legal ops is this whole career that exists, not just a career, but a fantastic career with upward trajectory. So I'd love to hear from everyone here. I guess what is your thoughts on that jump? How is that jump done, and is it actually obtainable to go from paralegal to legal ops?
Yes, yes, it is. Absolutely. You can do it.
I figured everyone would say yes on that one.
I mean, I look at me and how I made the jump. So me transitioning even to in-house, as I was a paralegal when I made the jump even in-house, and I was stolen. My GC stole me from the firm that I was working at. And he said to me, because I didn't have a lot of experience in certain areas, one of which was contracting. And he's like, after this long conversation and him understanding my experiences and skills that I had, I said, towards the end of the conversation, I'm like, Anthony, I don't have experience in contract law. I don't have experience in IP, so on and so forth. And he's like, Carl, that stuff I can teach you. I can mentor you in those areas of law. That's nothing. You have already the skills that I need. And making that leap and transitioning into in-house, I stumbled onto legal ops. I saw an article about legal operations, and I was like, ooh, this sounds really interesting. Can I do it? And I started reading up on it, and I finally got the gumption and approached my GC, and I was like, I'm interested in transitioning into this particular role. Is this something that you would be interested in? And made the case for me. And he was like, actually, I was reading stuff and attended an ACC session on legal operations, and I was going to approach you about it. And I was like, whoa, okay, let's do it then. And so I stumbled into it. But I went to my very first CLOC conference, and I was maybe 2 years into being a legal ops professional. And I went into this conference of 1,500 people going, oh my God, what have I done? Because these people seem really smart, and I don't know that I can do this. I've got to be the only paralegal that's made this transition. And it was my second, I'll never forget this, it was my second session that I went to, and there was a panel about 4 people, 2 of which in about midpoint in their session addressed that they were former paralegals. And I was like, I'm not a unicorn. There is a whole race of us, a whole genesis of other paralegals to legal ops professionals. And went up to them. And I'm like, I thought I was the only one. They're like, no. And they helped me understand. And Deisha and Tom and I, that's our whole goal with this particular thing, is to help give you confidence so that you know that you can do that leap. You do have the skills that transition into legal ops. So for me, it was sort of and I know a lot of other people too, they kind of fell into it because they didn't know, okay, what was the trajectory? How do I do it? And they just kind of fell into it. And I know I'll quit talking, but Tom and Deisha, they have different stories, but similar stories.
And Tom, I'll let you go first and I'll go last this time, because I know where you're going with yours, and I'll be able to piggyback off of that one.
Oh, wow. This works out perfect then. Wow. By the way, thanks for that, just like slinging me the ball. So
trying to be polite.
All right, I'm up. Here we go. Okay. I can talk about, where I came from, from a corporate finance paralegal to litigation to employment, and how as a legal professional paralegal, what I was focused on. But think about it. Whether or not it was called legal operations, I was handling workflows. And I think a lot of us in this profession take on these responsibilities as we grow with the law firm. And if we're speaking about the law firm side. So whether it's, worrying about, outside counsel engagements or handling your client, letters, whether they are the engagement letters, whether you are entering into contracts with them, you are really analyzing legal contracting terms. You are looking at data itself. You're being able to connect the dots. So you don't always have to say, it needs to be legal operations and we're going to call it this and my title has to be this, because quite frankly, when I was in the OG law firms and before we had awesome workflow tool automation tools, before we had fancy CLMs, we were in Microsoft Word and we were, setting up macros to be able to fill out forms, a Google form Lite, because we were so tired of doing intake forms, whether they were for motions or briefs or petitions or client intake. And so you see where I'm going here. I think it's being able to, once again, it's connecting. How does budget at the law firm side connect to potentially corporate legal operations, accruals, vendor engagement, outside counsel negotiations? I can go all through the 12 and really the core functions. But I just want to say that this is how you connect the dots, is being able to advocate and educate for yourself. And then hopefully over time that organically, allows you to take the next step in your career towards ultimately legal operations, if that's where you want to be.
Absolutely. And Tom, that was excellent, as I knew it would be. And Carl, just to add, Carl started in a firm and went in-house. I did the opposite. I started in-house and then I went to major law firm because in my day that was considered, you have to have that as a resume builder to be able to practice in big law. And so I had the pleasure of being with a firm that was taken over by a bigger firm, but still had a small firm culture. And so I found myself doing different things. So I've had corporate experience, I had litigation experience. I've also gone to the compliance side and been an anti-money laundering analyst as well. And just being able to pull together all of the things that are needed in order to run the department as smoothly as possible. In one of my former roles, my title was paralegal, but I was doing everything legal operations, and my goal was to make more money. So I know we don't talk about that as much, but if a title prevents you from making more money, then find out what that next title is that will give you more money and learn as much about it as possible. And when you start reading the job, descriptions, you will see, oh, I do that. Oh, I know that I've done this before, or I could learn it. Right now, YouTube University is like one of the most popular universities out there. If you can say it, then you can find something on how to do it. And so I got stuck in a situation where my general counsel went out on unexpected medical leave, and I was forced to bring together a team that we then had furloughed during the pandemic. So not only were we looking at technology implementations prior to the pandemic, we had to then deal with not having enough people already to then going down from a team of 5 to a team of 2. And so being able to have the blessing and backing from my CEO and my CFO at the time to run the legal department and to get it back into good standing, I then fought for the title in my next role to become the director of legal operations, to get the salary that I felt that was deserved, and then also to ask for the technology that we needed in order to take the next business to the next level. And sometimes you don't always get the technology that you want in your current role, but don't knock these vendors off just because you can't use them or you don't have the budget. Learn as much as you can about all the products, because you may be able to take it to your next role and negotiate whatever discount you did at your last one going into your new corporation. And so having all of that background as a paralegal, a legal secretary, a claims assistant with Social Security disability, and an anti-money laundering analyst in the compliance role, depending on what company you go to, you just take the skills that you have and then you mold it into what you need to and get the information, network. Carl and Tom, I met at my first legal operations forum that I spoke on earlier this year. And I went to my first clock conference this year. And who did I see on the panels on the first day was Carl and Tom. And so this community is very small, but it's growing day by day. So get in and network with people, LinkedIn, send a cold message if you have to, and learn what you can about it to see how you can transition your paralegal skills into becoming the next legal operations analyst, director of legal operations, or legal operations specialist, whatever you need.
I don't know how to follow up on that because it was just
I don't know how you
gold,
can either.
Right. Yeah. Look, legal ops, we really are just concentrating on liaising with other functions, and we optimize those relationships to communicate the value to the rest of the company. So for me, as a paralegal, I worked for a named partner at a law firm that said, I don't actually care how you make this process better. You have a team of 6 do whatever you want for onboarding, make a binder. I don't care. And then he was like, tell me what you need. And as time, I stick my foot in my mouth and he's like, Tom, we can't do this. So by the way, you don't know that. So as Deisha said, as Carl said, a lot of this is mentorship. It's taking the existing tools that are in your toolbox, and saying, hey, I see that this is here. How can I connect? How can I learn more? If you are so adamant that you are going to quit a role because your title isn't legal operations, but you haven't been able to identify what that is and clearly articulate it, that's where this community is wanting to connect the dots and help everyone be on the same page so we can really advocate for each other too, as we continue to grow both our own professions and the profession in general.
This is awesome. I don't have anything to add either. I feel like I need to, though, because everything I just heard was so stellar. And I want to give the attorney perspective, and this is all I'm going to say. Attorneys are the same way. When we go in-house, we may not know everything, right? I was a litigator, and I went in. I have to just say that YouTube is great. Online resources are great. Mentorship is great. You could become that role. Attorneys do it all the time. I became a director of legal. I definitely wasn't, when I first interviewed, I probably wasn't the best choice for director of legal, but I became that. Same with if you're a paralegal and you're looking to become a director of legal operations, you may not have all the skills. You may come in as a litigator originally, or maybe you come in with an employment law background, or maybe you come in intellectual property, and what they need is somebody that's more commercial contracts or more mergers and acquisitions experience, right? Or more true operations experience. You could become that. Don't let that be an impediment. If you're looking at a job you want to apply to, don't allow that to be an impediment to what you want to do. That was the quick thing I wanted to add because I loved everything you guys said. And we see that as lawyers ourselves, like the same thing. It's a very parallel career. I also wanted to address a question, speaking of which, because we are the worst lawyers. No offense, everyone watching, but when you work, I want to ask the group here, when you work with a team of lawyers, how do you deal with egos? And sometimes in the industry. I'd love to hear your thoughts, everybody.
Oh, yeah. So I will tell you, in litigation, for those that are on this that may not be in litigation, I have worked with some of the biggest powerhouse nationwide, international trial litigation attorneys, and egos are giant. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it is a matter of just water off a duck's back. You have to know you have to know your limit, how far you are willing to be the whipping boy or girl for those egos. But sometimes it is, you know what? I'm going to just plow through this and understand that this is an ego. This is not a personal. And I've got to get the work done. So I'm just going to do it and let a lot of that just roll off my back. Have I had situations, and I know Deisha and Tom have had situations just like me prior to moving in-house and even in-house of dealing with our lawyers and egos, and how do you navigate that? And sometimes it is years and tears. Sometimes you just have to understand this is part of the growing process as a professional, and navigate and grow and be around those that are like you, that are going to encourage you and challenge you to grow as a professional. That's the best thing that you can do, is navigate and be around those. I will never forget when I graduated from college, our speaker, and these are the only words I remembered, she said, surround yourself with tens, number tens. And I was like, well, okay, that's weird. All right, fine. But it started to resonate with me that if you want to be successful and grow as a professional, you've got to surround yourself with those that also have that same insight and drive for you and support you to make you grow. And so even in our profession, in our jobs, we want to be around those that are going to help us grow professionally. Otherwise, we're stunted as professionals. So for me, sometimes it's just a matter of letting it roll off your back. Unless they're chunking something at your head or they're using profane words, in a malicious way against you, sometimes you have to let it, you have to figure out how to navigate personally.
And I think that's excellent, Carl. And I have had to deal with both dodging things and profane words. So I will say that the first thing I want to say is confidence. Confidence is your friend. My mother has taught me the importance of confidence since I was a younger child. And when people ask me, what do I do? That's the first thing people say every time they ask, well, what do you do? And I say, do you want to know what I do, or do you want to know who I am? Because what I do doesn't make me who I am. Who I am makes me good at what I do. So the first thing is being confident in yourself, and treating everyone with a respect that you would like to be treated with. Being able to draw boundaries. Sometimes we show people how to treat us. And so there are things that you do just let roll and slide, but there are also things that you can do to communicate with the person. And so people want to know that you care before they care to know what you know. And so sometimes you have to kill them with kindness. You have to smile, you have to laugh, but then sometimes you also have to be able to be confident enough to get in a room and have a conversation and say, hey, can I speak with you about what you just said? And pull the person to the side and say, look, I respect you. We can work really well together. But one thing that I do have to say, it made me uncomfortable when you spoke to me in this way. It made me uncomfortable when you did this. Or if something that they said is unacceptable, then you have to let them know that. And there are different ways that you can do that depending on who the person is, what their style is. And in some cases, a law firm, like I worked at a guy, and I swear it was the devil just testing me one day. And this guy treated everyone the same way. And it wasn't with a baseline of respect. He shouted, they delivered. And one day he shouted at me in my face. And I said to him, I'm sorry, sir, with all due respect, my mother has the right to speak to me that way, and she does not. And I will not accept that from you at either. And so he looked at me, and it's like his smile just tensed up, and he wanted to say something, but he didn't. And he then came and apologized to me. He had never in his 20 years at that firm apologized to anyone ever. And so again, you have to learn people's behavior, find out how people communicate, how they perceive and receive information, and then go based upon that. But be confident in who you are, and never let anybody treat you a way that you wouldn't want them to treat your mother or anyone else that you respect.
Amen. Hallelujah.
Amen. I'll just say, as an attorney, when I was in private practice, when I was also in-house, there were paralegals and folks in that vein, like directors of legal ops. The confidence, 100% Deisha. Like, there would be folks that had such a level of confidence that controlled the room. And when they controlled the room, all the attorneys stopped. They understood it, especially in private practice. There was the running joke was like the senior paralegal. If you mess with the senior paralegal, it's like you're making a mistake. When I say making a mistake, like you're out, like you're gone.
Yep.
So and it was always, it's just, that was the joke amongst all of our friends. Like, if you mess with the especially because the senior paralegal also knows where the skeletons are hiding, right?
Oh, yeah.
But it's always the confidence. The confidence. I couldn't, I guess, like, evangelize that topic more. Like, being confident in that role controls the room with attorneys, especially with we're the worst with egos. I've got a big question I want to ask everybody, and I think everyone wants to know, what does the day-to-day look like for you guys? And I imagine for everyone here, it's a little bit different. Tom, do you want to start with that?
Yeah, I mean, day-to-day is different. And the reason why it's different is it's maybe not the popular thing to say, but in preparation for this, I was thinking, okay, how do we be real? How do we inspire? How do we educate? But it's not a glamorous role. If you are thinking that legal operations is this, we're only living in this 30,000 foot cloud all day, just playing in the strategy waters, it isn't. But also, it can look differently and vary. So as a paralegal, I knew, if I was in a specific practice area, there would maybe areas that I would try and focus on more, or I would pivot to other areas. I couldn't only focus on, filing, appellate briefs in Chapter 11 adversary cases in defense of corporations objecting to confirmations of plans. The same way in legal operations, we would love to just hire people and just press a button and roll out technology all day and be able to just snap our fingers, and CLM provides AI, which talks to e-billing and gives us beautiful data analytics. But the fact is that sometimes we play 75% strategy and 25% tactical. Sometimes we're reverse, and sometimes we're in between. And so for me, I really try and say that I and my team is focused on the people, payments, process, and technology. So whatever we're doing, our day is looking like what data-driven decisions need to be made, what processes need to be understood that align with the business, throwing in, is there an appetite for change or not? So we really have to be able to be a balancing act, and much like a legal professional or a paralegal, that's what we're good at. We have worn multiple hats. We have done everything that we want to do versus everything of not what we're wanting to do, whether it's staying up at 11:59 to file a brief on the West Coast because that's bad law firm behavior and we shouldn't be doing that anyways. But maybe there's some skill sets and time management that you learn in that too. So I think everything, without being this, rose-colored glasses, everything is one learning experience and building block to another that you really just have to start leaning into and saying, this is what my bag looks like, and how can I be of an asset to the business through legal operations.
So for me, working in gaming and hospitality, before the merger, I was in one property. So we were not part of any other conglomerate, Caesars or MGM or any of the others, big names. And so we were a small legal department. We had a total of 7 people, 1 GC, director of compliance, director of risk, director of contracts, me, a corporate paralegal, and 2 other support role type people. And so I was a man of many hats, because when I transitioned into doing more true legal ops work, I was still having to do some senior paralegal work, but I was kicking more and helping my corporate paralegal actually grow, who reported to me, and taking on more substantive work so I could do more legal ops. Now transitioning into a much larger legal department, there's 30 plus people in this department. I don't have to be the man of many hats. I now can focus in on true legal operations work. And so, but to the point, I still am doing a variety of things to, the beginning process of identifying and implementing an ELM system, designing workflows around certain aspects within the different business units, to information governance, to business management, to business intelligence, still doing many things. And to what Tom was saying a minute ago, I took all those skill sets that I had from being a trial paralegal for so many years and doing large volume, large cases, complex cases. By design, I really was a project manager. I didn't call myself a project manager, but that's what I did as a paralegal for so many years. So I just took all those skill sets and just applied it to the time management and understanding how to balance. I've got this trial was going to happen this week, but I also had this giant discovery production that was going to happen at the same time. How do I do both of them? understanding what are my resources, tapping into others, things of that nature. It's the same here in-house and in legal ops, is understanding, how do you balance everything? Because there are very few, it happens in much larger corporate legal departments that really truly focus in on one area. But by and large, most of us are, people with many talents and skills that we have to juggle. So Deisha, I'm sure you're the same way.
Absolutely, Carl. And I can tell you, you said 7 people in the legal department. That kind of rings true for the department that I have now. I had to build the legal department from scratch because it's very public knowledge. Our company came out of Chapter 11 bankruptcy, or Chapter 13 bankruptcy last year. The team that they also were then purchased by another private equity company. So they had lots of transactions going down and coming back up. And the legal team that they had was a team of 3 people outside of the GC. And it stretched them so thin that you can only do that for a certain amount of time before you burn out. Yep. And so when I came on board, I had the pleasure of rebuilding an entire legal team from scratch. My GC had left 2 months after I started. And so not only did I fill all of the positions that had vacated, we added another position. I added a legal administrator position. We have a corporate and regulatory paralegal, and we also have a manager of legal and risk. We have since added a records coordinator who handles all of the records requests and subpoena requests that come in. And then I also have the person who works at the front desk who has a legal assistant background to help us out as well. But I also was able to source for my GC. So I had a hand in picking who my boss was going to be. And many times we do not get asked what our opinion is or who we think would best fit with our team. And I took one person who had been with the company for 10 years, who sat at the front desk and made her a legal administrator. And Carl and Tom got a chance to meet her at Clock. And that was her first time in 10 years ever going anywhere to have it value added to her. And so we had to build that around the department, around the personalities, and making sure that everybody kind of gelled and fit. And then our GC came along, and our legal team is less than a year old. I've been there for over a year and a half, but it's 7 of us strong. And I will be getting a legal operations analyst in October, God willing. And we keep growing and growing. But the person who talked about data analytics and how to use them in a non-monetary way, that is one of the other reasons why we focus on analytics, because what we can do to streamline a process and have efficient workflows, we can also utilize the people that we have more, or determine whether or not we need additional people and how that can help the business bring in more money if we can even be more efficient.
Wow. First off, wow that you raised the
Sorry.
No, sorry. I'm just like, time out. You built the whole legal department from scratch?
Yes. In 4 months. In 4 months. And I learned the position in 3 days. And, I know that's not going to be something that everybody is going to be trialed with, but to come into a company and learn 3 positions in 3 days and then have your GC leave and then you be the only person responsible. I had to report to the CEO for 6 months, and it was an amazing experience, and I needed the change at the time. But I can tell you, it is not for the faint at heart.
No. Not
for the faint at heart, or people who like to take vacations.
I wish I could have hired you guys. I wish I could have hired all of you. Oh my gosh. The skills y'all bring to the table are so unbelievable, and different skills as well. Like, everyone specializes in something else. Granted, everyone has that project manager style skills where you're bringing these efficiencies. You're making sure things are moving in the right direction, and encouraging growth, which is huge, because as an attorney, I'm just putting out fires. That's how my brain works. And there needs to be someone there that's like, all right, go put out fires. I'm gonna make sure we don't have fires ever again. How about that? So I love this. I love everything you guys are saying. I'm actually going to answer. We have so many questions. I'd love to address some of them if you guys don't mind. So here's a question. I'd love some tips on how to move past the role that is legal ops i.e. handling the legal ops function, but still being asked to function as a corporate paralegal, and in some cases, more of an administrative role. So is there a way to move past that and to be truly like a director of legal ops manager? Or do you see that role more as a hybrid? So what do y'all think?
I guess
in the role of legal operation. Oh, go ahead, Carl.
Oh, I was just going to, I kind of want to know a little bit more about that person and how big their department is. And are they a shop of one GC and then this legal ops plus title? Because you may have to think about the size that you're dealing with. Now, if you're a multifaceted person and you have a department that can warrant actually being legal ops only, goes back to what we've been saying too, analytics. Understand, what are you spending your time on? What problems can be resolved, solutions that you can say to streamline efficiencies to warrant, hey, I'm better served doing only legal ops, and here's how I can serve you doing and focusing in only on legal ops. So I'm kind of curious to know more about that particular position, because if it is a shop of two, GC and this person, yeah, you may not be able to shift that title because unfortunately you're doing all of it. But it also doesn't hurt to want to change your title. If you are doing a lot of legal ops, and I don't want to be called legal ops / paralegal anymore. I want to be called legal ops manager or manager of legal services. That type of role. That might help you if you're looking to move your career in a trajectory to grow more into legal ops. You want to be a legal chief of staff someday, then think about how you can not manipulate. That sounded bad. Massage and, make it so that your title is it defines a legal ops role, even though you may be doing some other granular paralegal or administrative duties.
I knew you were that kind of legal ops person.
Listen, I don't manipulate. I'm a control freak.
You can call it whatever you want. It is a descriptor of things to get stuff done. Really quickly, I will say that the key points or the key takeaways I think in this overall theme is, one, if you are in legal operations, heed the advice of leaning into your business, leaning into your career framework, leaning into your manager, leaning into your boss, having the conversation. What is the appetite? Where are we going? How do I fit in on the journey? I know tons of people that started off as corporate paralegals and then became legal ops. The person who was at me in this role before me built a dynasty and an empire by being just a savvy legal professional, regardless of what her title was. And I think that I could not be in the role that I am and do some of the things that I am accomplishing if there had not been a solid foundation from the get-go. And not everyone is going to have that. So these are just examples of everyone comes from a totally different situation, and you have to look at it from the business skill set. I think if you lean into your career framework, you understand where the role is going, maybe an opportunity to go from corporate paralegal to somewhat legal operations. Your GC will say, oh, well, we're going to acquire somebody, and maybe in 2 years, our legal team is going to be 25 to 50. Let's start a conversation of what do you think that should look like? Give me some job descriptions. Tell me what you want to do. Educate me more. Arm yourself with the resume, the skill sets, and sell yourself. And that's applicable to how do you do technology and all of the things. But I think you have to be able to advocate for yourself and not only be focused on just getting paid a specific price point or having a specific title if it doesn't align with the environment and career framework you're wanting to have.
And it needs to be fulfilling to you. Like you said, Tom, the prior team to me, they had laid a very great foundation, and I was able to come in there and use their organization and the vision that they had and just add to it. As the same as my last job, they replaced us with 3 attorneys and 4 other support professionals for a job that 2 of us were doing at one point in time. And so the foundations are very important, whether it's in your current role or your next role. And corporate paralegal is an amazing title to have. And so if you are doing that work, keep the title. I am now an assistant corporate secretary because of my corporate paralegal background, which makes me an officer of the corporation as well. So use all those skills to your advantage.
Deisha, can I hire
Also,
you?
raise your hand.
Can I hire
Raise your
everyone?
hand if you started off as a paralegal on this panel and did more than just what your title was, because every single one of us have, it didn't matter what our title was, but it helped us get to where we are now. And so, yes, maybe for a year or two, we hated the name paralegal, but you know what? We used it to our advantage to help get us where we were, to where we are.
Yep. Amen.
Respect. Listen, when I was in a law firm, I remember the paralegals that I worked with who were, I wish I could hire them too. I wish I could hire everybody. Don't tell Lawtrades I said that, guys. Definitely they're not listening right now. But the paralegals that I used to work with when I was a litigator would handle, like Carl, you're a former litigation paralegal, the legal billing, all the vendor procurement from a law firm side. So getting the court reporter, getting the deposition, and finding the best one, because not all guidelines are created equal, where we had to find the ones that were the most cost effective, that also didn't, kill us at the end, right? I need a good transcript. I need a good court reporter, generally speaking.
They showed up.
Oh my gosh. This is not the one for war stories. That'll be another one in the future, but we'll talk war stories at some point. I think everyone on this call has some really good ones. So I've got one last question for everyone here, and it's a very important question, and it's, where do we see legal ops going to in the future? What is it evolving into?
I'll go first. We are finally getting a seat at the table and allowing ourselves to be in a corporate role that every other business unit has had. There has always been an operations director that comes from IT, technology, procurement, that does the people, payment, process, and technology for that business silo. And so legal operations is getting a seat at the table, being involved, and the entire corporation is, as has been said earlier, it's no longer a cost center, it's a revenue protector. They have skill sets that aren't just applicably practicing law. So I think where we're going is trending in the right direction that allows us to elevate the profession. And I think we just need to continue to, educate, advocate, talk the same language, communicate, help each other when we fall down, be there for a community. And I think in doing that, we will see a lot of really impactful steps forward in the next couple of years.
I think private practice will start to recognize the value of the legal operations functions a lot more, especially as these private equity companies come in and take over more and more businesses. The most pain point is the due diligence process. And if you have a person that is a legal operations member and is with the senior leadership team, I think we will continue to be brought more into the senior leadership conversations with the C-suite, as well as the board of directors in any private practice, and they will utilize our function, and it will be really good for our profession as well.
And I'll just wrap it all up, because both Deisha and Tom have added so much. And I'll say this about our profession: it's not going anywhere other than up. So you won't see our particular legal ops profession start to dwindle, because just like Tom was saying, legal for too long has had the mindset that we're not a business, we practice law. And so operations was not part of the mindset of most
legal
leadership.
Doesn't do it that way.
Correct. And so operations now, as especially corporate America, understands that, and legal understands now, hey, wait, all these other departments has an operations role, or even a sub-department within that particular department on managing the operations of that department. And so legal wants it too. And you're only going to see our profession to continue to grow. We will always, to me, I see us as always maybe sitting not necessarily in legal, but we are an arm to legal, because we touch the other operations within the business. So we are got our fingers in every other business unit and those respective operations roles, because we're just like the rest of the business. And so we're only going to see our particular roles grow and evolve over time.
Fantastic. Guys, thank you so much. This has been honestly truly enlightening. I love legal ops mostly because I'm jaded and wish I had a legal ops professional at my last job. And everyone here knows that. So thank you again. Thank you so much for everyone listening. It's fantastic insight. For everyone watching, we have networking after this. So please click. I think the link should be on the left-hand side. Also, if you are currently a legal ops professional and you're looking to do more freelance legal ops work, please join Lawtrades. We have plenty of those positions out there. Conversely, right, if you're looking for a legal ops professional, how you doing? Finally, we've got some cool events coming up in the future. One that I will be moderating again, and one that's really near and dear to my heart, and it's managing outside legal spend. And that will be speakers from LVMH, Kendrill, and Levels. And the link will be in the chat. Again, thank you, everyone. And I look forward to talking to you all during the networking.